It's August, it's blockbuster season, and we're full of the adrenaline that only a movie about miscreants whose attitudes and crimes range from bad to really bad in this week's episode, 1997's ConAir. The story of a man just trying to get home after being paroled was made iconic by none other than Nicolas Cage, who began filming ConAir days after earning his Best Actor win for, ironically, leaving Las Vegas. ConAir is a bonkers in all the right ways movie that falls into the holy trinity of Nicolas Cage action movies, including previous episode Face Off and The Rock. And I, for one, really hope the wheel draws The Rock as one of this month's episodes. But getting back to ConAir, a movie about prisoners being transported from one facility to another and all hell breaking out seems too far-fetched to be even slightly rooted in reality. But what if I told you ConAir was kind of based on a true story? Picture it, August 1993. Los Angeles Times staff writer Eric Malnick heard about the Air Operations Division of the U.S. Marshals Service, which flies prisoners around the country for transfers, medical examinations, and court appearances on Boeing 727s. So Malnick wrote about this air operation in an article titled, "When Jailbirds Fly, They Always Use ConAir." But the real ConAir service originated in Oklahoma in 1985. Before then, transporting prisoners long distance was a costly and often risky business, with prisoners sometimes taken on conventional commercial airlines under guard. Then, the U.S. Marshal Service found themselves in possession of a plane courtesy of the FAA. It was decided this vehicle would be used to transport prisoners en masse. And just like that, a late 90s action classic was born. Now, many of the details of the LA Times article will sound familiar to ConAir viewers. As in the movie, the prisoner transfer planes steer clear of major commercial airports, instead transferring between remote minor airfields and maybe a boneyard here and there. Once on the ground, the convicts are slowly escorted under the watchful eye of Federal Bureau of Prisons guards. In addition, body searches look for hidden contraband. No word on how well they search hands for handcuff keys. That still grosses me out. Prisoners are then shackled with handcuffs attached to waist chains, leg irons on each ankle, and this forces inmates to shuffle slowly along. Now, once on the plane, the passengers look forward to no in-flight movies, magazines to read, or even pillows to make a nap more comfortable. But if you're a nap enthusiast like me, however, you find a way. Yes, you do. You find a way to catch a nap. Window shades stay up, seats don't recline, and tray tables are stowed in their upright positions the entire time, even when lunch is served. Oh, and prisoners must receive permission to use the bathroom. So all of these details found their way into the original ConAir script. And for some additional research, screenwriter Scott Rosenberg spent 3 days traveling along real prisoners on the real ConAir. Closer to production, he joined Cage, Bruckheimer, and director Simon West on a visit to the notorious maximum security penitentiary in Sacramento, Folsom. After signing a no hostage waiver. Now, this was to ensure that if a prisoner injured or killed them, their families wouldn't sue. They walked into the busy yard. There, the men saw 2,000 prisoners talking and exercising. And as more and more prisoners began to recognize Nicolas Cage and began to wonder what was going on, they approached him, and the Hollywood crew got anxious. Guards grabbed the filmmakers and hustled them out of the yard. Fast. "I'll say this now," says Bruckheimer. "I felt okay, but that's because I'm out of there. I was nervous," end quote. And to borrow a line from the film itself, welcome to ConAir. Now, while this was no doubt a stressful situation, they were likely in no real danger, as the people who transport prisoners on the real-world ConAir, all 4 of them. As for the real ConAir, it's still going strong. Immediately after the September 11th attacks, it was the only civilian air service still allowed to fly in U.S. air service. And as of 2022, it has 3 hubs, 1 in Vegas, 1 in the Caribbean, and its top location, its Oklahoma HQ. ConAir annually transports a staggering 260,000 convicts and detainees. And Donald DeLine, then president of Disney's adult offshoot Touchstone Pictures, thought the concept of flying felons would make a good movie, and Todd Garner, then vice president of production, hired Scott Rosenberg. So Rosenberg wrote the characters using musical inspiration, from the sing-along of Sweet Home Alabama to Poe's long-haired character who mirrored many Southern rock frontmen, long-haired bandies, Rondi Van Zant and Greg Almond. Black Gorilla's general, Diamond Dog, got his name from David Bowie's hit, and Sally Can't Dance was a famous Lou Reed song. Now, no word on where Dave Chappelle's character, Pinball Parker, came from, but I'd like to assume maybe The Who. Once production was approved, the script went to none other than Bruckheimer to produce. On the set of Michael Bay's The Rock, Bruckheimer passed the script to Cage, who loved it. Together, they began making Poe more sympathetic, changing him from a random thug to a virtuous Army Ranger who just so happened to know how to always be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Cage himself decided that Poe would have a plush toy bunny to give his daughter to be protected at all costs. Meanwhile, Simon West landed on Bruckheimer's radar to direct. At the time, West was directing music videos, most notably Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. Once he got the job, at Bruckheimer's request, he immediately set about working with him to make it more bananas. The plane shrunk. Instead of the Boeing the real ConAir used, West wanted a small jet that looked like an old prison bus. However, the action got bigger. Rosenberg admits at its core, ConAir is a, quote, pretty ridiculous movie. I agree, but I still love it. Bruckheimer knew he wanted it funny, and he kept pushing the absurdity, and at one point hired J.J. Abrams, then known as a comedic screenwriter, to contribute jokes. Abrams was also writing on Armageddon, another potential pick for Action August. And Abrams gave them a few lines for ConAir, including Poe deadpanning as the DEA Duncan Malloy's Corvette, tied to the back of the plane, trails behind in the sky, quote, on any other day, that might seem strange. So filming for ConAir began July 1st, 1996, with Salt Lake City International Airport doubling for ConAir's base. Cage was fully invested, totally prepared, and rarely went beyond 3 takes. Malkovich, on the other hand, as Cyrus the Virus, appeared not to have read the script and asked the director time what he wanted him to do before coming up with the hilarious expletive-strewn improvisations Cyrus the Virus was known for. Then came the madness. For 8 weeks, for the shooting of the siege in Lerner Airfield, they all lived and worked in Wendover, a 1.6-mile-long strip of nothingness on the Nevada-Utah border. And it was hot. Temperatures hit 120 degrees. And the chaos did not stop when the production moved to Las Vegas to film the famous climax. Quote, "It was crazy," said Rosenberg. These guys had been cooped up in a little town for 8 weeks, and all of a sudden they're unleashed in Vegas. It was like the Vikings attacking, looting, and sacking. Often, when people were needed on set, they were nowhere to be found. We'd have to send people out to track them down. And before production had moved to Las Vegas, the director had read in the LA Times that the Sands Casino was closing down, scheduled to be demolished. He asked them to delay the demolition until they got there, and they agreed. Once given the light, the production crew smashed all hell out of the place. And then, after filming a post-climax climax with stolen police motorbikes and a fire engine, they were done. ConAir premiered appropriately at Las Vegas's Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, where the plane crashes through during its final descent. Guests were flown in from LA on a 737 this time, and upon arriving on the tarmac in Vegas, were greeted by prison guards who shoved them all onto fake prison buses with batons, convoys driving them down the strip. At the Hard Rock, a replica of ConAir's plane had been crashed into a pop-up cinema. Guests were then led through the plane into a tunnel that housed prison cells, behind which prisoners shouted at them and gave them popcorn. Just before showtime, guards shoved a prisoner onto the stage dressed in an orange jumpsuit and wearing a spit guard. The prisoners pulled off his spit guard, revealing Bruckheimer, who duly introduced the film. Again, nothing about this film, from its initial script to the production to the last, was subtle, so why stop at the premiere? Eric Malnick, the writer of the article that started it all, was there. Quote, "To say that Touchstone's version of ConAir differed somewhat from mine would be an understatement." Bruckheimer, promoting the film on the Charlie Rose Show, said, quote, "We added just some drama and stretched reality a little bit, just a bit." Who among us has not witnessed a car tethered to an airplane, or a body descending into traffic, or a casino raining down money to all passerby? In the end, ConAir grossed $224 million worldwide in 1996 dollars. Reviews were mixed, of course, but most critics recognized the sheer fun of it all. To Bruckheimer, it's just a fun romp, and says he's very heartened every time he reads about how much affection people have for it 28 years later. Oh, and what about that flying car? Well, I'm no physicist, but I did some research because, my viewers deserve it. The problem with dragging a car behind a cargo plane isn't that it couldn't pull it off the ground. Considering that a car traveling over 150 miles per hour that gets wind under it will basically fly, that's fine and dandy. Problem: once it's airborne, it is not aerodynamic. It would be flopping around and subject to so many forces that it would cause the plane itself, who already had extensive damage, severe problems, and the weight and drag could potentially rip the aircraft's structure apart. In the movie, the car, a 1967 Corvette Stingray, by the way, was tied off inside somehow. Physics dictates that it would have ripped apart whatever it was tied to, breaking the chains, the straps, whatever, holding it. The plane would be pulled down by the drag and the pilot would have little chance of getting it to respond. I guess flying into an air traffic tower could solve the problem, but no one seems to be willing to test that theory. So go ahead and give the subscribe button some airborne action so you never miss a thing. As always, we appreciate our listeners, our viewers, our supporters. Stay tuned for more mayhem with Action August. The Real Relationships podcast drops every Thursday on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and episodes of the show premiere on YouTube every Thursday as well. Stay safe, stay out of prisoner airspace, and we will see you soon.